Hello everyone and welcome back to the updated fish room tour. Here's just a quick look at everybody. Some changes I've made, you can probably spot already. This is just a quick look at all the tanks. And I'll go on to explaining who's in what and what I have in which. So starting with the obvious, the goldfish are in this brand new 55 gallon. I go from the back a lot, just so I can be able to see my big boy. 55 gallon, fully planted. I got a canister filter down there and 2 sponge filters in this tank. Here's it from the front. And I get to watch it all day, every day. I got 6 goldfish in here, 3 loaches, and 3 minnows. And they do not eat the plants, surprisingly enough. I've seen a lot of people have problems with goldfish eating the plants in the tank, but they've left all of the plants alone, actually. They're very happy. Okay, so starting with the first shelf of the 5 gallon rack. Over here, we have astronomer, and over here, we have Firefly, who you can see right there. What a cute little man. He's still a very young beta. These are both obviously 5 gallons. This whole rack below me is full of 5 gallons, with the exception to 1 old man. All of these tanks are fully planted with tannins, and filtered and heated, obviously. Every tank in this room is filtered and heated. Most have tannins, but we have a beautiful boy wanting to show off for everybody, because why not? So what's cool is I have a couple of these tanks, what I like to call tanks. These are about 6 gallons. They're critter keepers that you would use for like taking animals to the vets. So I use them as tanks. They work amazing, better than normal tanks, except they scratch a lot, but I think they're a great alternative. So moving on to the next. On this next shelf, we have Alkali over here and Custard over here. A very beautiful boy is Custard. He just moved into this tank today. And Alkali, a beautiful girl. The only female beta I have. And she's a gold beta. These are both obviously live planted. This one's much more bushy than her tank because this tank is a lot darker thanks to the floaters. This is also one of the critter carriers. This tank is from Petco. It kind of broke after like the first year of use, but that's only because the top has a hinge and the hinge just decided to not stay attached. Moving on to the next shelf. Okay, so down here we have a 5 gallon and a 3.5 gallon for one of my very old men. So this one is, I think, an Aqueon tank. I got it from Petco, and it's one of the rimless tanks. It's not a true rimless tank because of the bottom, but it's okay. So far, so good with both of these. Obviously, I don't keep lids on a lot of my tanks, but this one I would have kept a lid on because it's rimless and I would assume it had the most problems, but I haven't had any problems with it. The only beta wanted to show off is Swim Shady because he sees a fly and he wants to eat the fly, but he can't have the fly and he knows it. He sees me. He is 4 years old now and he has this smaller tank from PetSmart just because he's an old man. And if I were to put him in something of 5 gallons or larger, he just clamps up his fins and has a very rough time. I don't think we'll be seeing Larkspur today. He likes to hide a lot, but that's perfectly okay. He's just a big blue half moon, so not missing too much. He does not like people. He especially does not like when I hold things up to him. And this water, I missed the tank. So that's just there because I poured water in and it decided to go out the side of it, so that is why that is there. It is not because one of these tanks are broken. it likes to leak down both the sides as well because of the plants, the floaters. They get caught and then drip. But this is just for me actually like physically dumping the water by accident. I will clean it up, no worries there. So moving on, here we have Journey. He is a dragon scale cat. He's also going partially blind. This is a Fluviflex. I think it's a 15 gallon, 16 gallon, around there. He has a whole tank to himself. I wanted to add guppies with him because he's very good with other fish, but I just figured it'd be too hard to clean. So, all by himself. Fully planted, obviously. I have a lot of root floaters that love sucking up all the stuff from the water. Lots of snails. There's a piece of driftwood in there, I promise. He just really loves this tank, and I wake up to him just staring at me every morning because that is one of his favorite things to do. Moving on to the windowsill, we have another Fluval tank. Fluval Spec 5 gallon with Mr. William inside. He's just a little blue veal tail. Today he got this whole tank rearranged. We have an Amazon sword and plenty of other plants. One plant that I can never keep alive is one of the Java ferns. It's got a little log and a name tag. They all have name tags. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but it's kind of camera shy. This man is not camera shy, however. This is my quarantine tank, another one of the critter keepers. He is a giant plakat. Only temporary, but he has to be in here for at least a month to quarantine. Of course, it's fully planted, just so he can have a little bit of comfort. He's gorgeous. My newest boy. I absolutely love him. He's full of life. But this is the windowsill tank. It's kind of hard to heat sometimes, but it's not the worst thing. I think it's aesthetically pleasing, even though I really don't like the look of this tank just how it is next to the Fluval, but I can always change that if I want to in the future. Okay, moving on to the 10 gallon racks. I have 6 10 gallons on this rack. I'll be going through each one of them. So first, we have Mr. Pumpkin. This is his whole tank to himself. He is in the back right there. He's just a small little baby plakat. I love him very much. He's very small, but this tank was open when I got him, and he has been in here ever since. I had some guppies in here, but they outgrew the tank, so they moved into the tank you'll see eventually, which has all the guppies in it. Over here, we got Mr. Flapper. He really loves going crazy whenever he sees me walk by. Absolutely love him. He has his own beta log, just like most of these guys. They either have a hammock or a beta log or a leaf, you'll see. I like giving my betas places to rest. Both of these tanks are obviously live planted again, but these filters are sponge filters all connected to the same air system. He's a pretty young man, and this tank I drip water down the sides of a lot, so that's what that is. But that's Flapper and Pumpkin. So for the second shelf, we have Dementor and Cotton. Dementor is one of the oldest boys that I have. He's 3. He came from Walmart, and he will flare at you given any opportunity. Very dark. One of the few crown tails I've had. He has a hammock, and Cotton has 2 because of his giant fins. He's a big old half moon. I think he's a delta actually, and was mislabeled because he's just got such giant fins. They have a split 10 gallon, some nice green gravel I'm not a huge fan of, but I was when I got it, so it stays in there with the sand. The plants are doing fantastic. I know, like, people say a lot that sand is not good for plants, but I have kind of busted that theory. I don't use any fertilizer except fish poop, and all these plants do fantastic. Over here we have the hardest to see tank out of all of them. This is not live planted, except for one plant in the back. The plants refuse to grow in this tank just because it's so dark. Right here we got Mr. Ribbons. Ribbons is a very cute boy. Very, very nice to everybody. He comes out to see everybody and will watch all day. And over here we got Black Beauty. is from a breeder. One of their high quality heftlings. Not that it matters to me. It was just, I wanted a really good quality betta, I guess. I think all my bettas are very, very great quality. They both have hammocks, but Ribbons likes to sleep on this plant. They both have filters on both sides because they don't have sponge filters connected to this air pump. All the rest of the tanks do. I was a short one, so this is the second shelf. Third shelf, these two don't have name tags because they are my newer boys. The newer boys don't seem to have name tags a lot, so. This is Samurai. He's very small. Little black dragon plakat. And Marshmallow is on this side, but he's somewhere in here. He's also a plakat, but he's a blue brim male. He came from a rescue, and he came from one of my local fish stores. He's very small and very scared, apparently. Anything will trip these two up. They are very big scaredy cats. They both have hammocks, and both have hides that are about the same. He's gonna come back and try to fight me, apparently, but he's just a little scaredy cat. Not sure where Marshmallow is. He usually comes out to see everybody, but my guess is he just decided to sleep in today. Over here, we have Trash Boy. Weird name, but because the store I got him from decided to push him into the back for 2 months, I named him Trash Boy because he was about to be thrown away like trash and just pushed to the back and not cared about for 2 months that I had seen him there. So now he's my big old trash man. But he is right in the back there. That little tail, you can just see. Here he comes. Coming to investigate and coming to tell me I'm his territory. He's also a red veal-tail, but he's a lot older than Flapper is. So Marshmallow decided to come out for a visit. Here he is. Like I said, he is a blue rim male, so he looks just like Samurai, but a little bit bigger and has pretty blue rims on his fins. He just keeps coming back to try to fight the camera because he doesn't know what's going on, but he just knows that he could probably bite this camera in half with his bare fins. But alas, he is a scaredy cat. Unlike Marshmallow, who is very, very friendly. So that is the bottom rack of my 10-gallon rack. Moving on to the 20-gallon rack. Here is the first shelf of the 20-gallon rack, filtered by a sponge filter and a 50-gallon or 55-gallon filter. They also have a heater, but this is all planted with just swords. They're very scared of the camera for some reason, but they normally are all out just trying to chase me. Big man right there that you just saw, that's Jeffrey. This tank was originally meant for him. He's about 2 or 3 years old now. He is a 3-spot gourami and loves to chase all of these little barbs in here. There's an assortment of barbs. I think there's about 4 tiger barbs and I don't remember how many rosy barbs because they keep having babies. There's also little panda cories down in the corner. There's 3 of them in this tank. Anytime I get any more panda cories for this tank, they just decide to die. I don't know why, but I tried to make this tank a big standout piece and all the brown algae just took over the plants. And they keep eating all the plants. So I'm just gonna let them do their thing. It's not a huge deal for me to have like stunning huge plants in the back because eventually these leaves will die off and regrow anyway, so if they want to eat it, they can go to town. Okay, moving on to the second rack. Oh, second shelf on this rack. Okay, so this is the second shelf technically. I keep my amphibians on. 2 10-gallons, a 5-gallon, and over here we got my bin with one of my big toads in it. We got a Pac-Man frog, a chubby frog, and one of my toads. Beautiful. There's not much to see here other than this is just where I keep my amphibians. They have heat. They don't have lights because that really just kind of irritates them. as far as I've seen, Evo really doesn't like light. He just loves to sit and just stare at the fish next door. But they all do come out. The frogs do not get handled. The toads, they come out and get handled and learn to be with other people besides me. It's very, very nice for them to do. Okay, moving on to the very last tank in this room. This is the 20-gallon high versus the 20-gallon long up there. This is full of guppies. There is so many guppies in this tank. I'm waiting until they grow up to start dispersing them among other tanks, or to just kind of donate them to an LFS or anybody that wants them if they have a good enough tank. I have a dwarf gourami right up. He took a nice old runaway, but I do have a dwarf gourami in here. He is right there, swimming downwards, right there. He does not like the camera. There he is. Not a big fan, but one dwarf gourami, one giant sword, which I'm very proud of for growing, and this is fully powered by a sponge filter. Very powerful filter for this tank. I have a lot of Vallisneria, so I moved some over here. There's a teeny little plant down there. But these guppies they are so personable, and there's just so many, I can't do anything about it. They also have a little hammock in here because some of them like to use it to hide in, and there's rocks and a piece of driftwood as well. Otherwise, it's just wide open for them to swim. But this is the most active tank, and they aren't sick. I just left one of those little medicine packets there. I'm just very messy sometimes when it comes to it. I had a sick fish in one of the hangover breeder bin things that I used medicine in, and worked well. So just left the medicine there. This little sword's kind of struggling. I'll have to trim it, but they really like eating the dead leaves, so I just kind of leave it there. Hasn't caused any problems at all. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll update again in the future, but this seems to be the biggest changes that I've made since my last video. I've had a lot of deaths due to some diseases. I've learned a lot about quarantining since. I've had columnaris kind of strip me of most of the fish of the last video, unfortunately, but after a lot of decontaminating and a lot of deaths, I have tanks back up and running, obviously, with fish in them, and everybody doing okay. Don't jinx myself on that, but that's what happened to most of the fish in the last video, unfortunately. I did have a sorority in here, but all of the girls died from columnaris. This was the tank that it started from, and it gradually decided to make its way to every other tank on the next rack over here, and went to this shelf and took over those 2 tanks and 2 of my 5-gallon tanks as well. It's very unfortunate. I don't know if I had the goldfish pond here in the last video, but the light is still hanging there from where I had that, and I moved the pond to this tank because it's much more aesthetically pleasing and easier to take care of. So that will be it. If y'all have any questions or any requests for the future, anything, just leave them in the comments. I will respond. I will see them eventually. If I don't see them right away, I promise. But any other ideas you guys want to see, just let me know. Okay. Hope you guys enjoyed. Goodbye.